Right now, somewhere, a cat is walking toward a door with something dead in its mouth. Every morning, millions of people open their front door and find a small tragedy waiting on the mat. A mouse. A bird. Sometimes just a wing, nothing else, like the rest of the story got lost somewhere in the yard. Most people's first reaction is disgust, then confusion, then a nervous laugh. Why does my cat do this? The easy answer is that cats are hunters, and hunters hunt. Fine. But that doesn't explain why the mouse ends up at your feet instead of eaten quietly behind the couch. Something else is going on. Your cat is trying to tell you something. And, this is the part that gets me, it might be the clearest thing it ever tells you. Here's the assumption most people carry around. Their cat gets fed twice a day. Warm bed, full bowl, never once gone hungry. So any hunting it still does must be pointless. Cruel, even. A house cat killing a bird looks like violence with no reason behind it. That assumption skips something basic about what a cat actually is. Domestication changed a lot about cats. It didn't change this part. Felis catus split off from wild cats something like 10,000 years ago, and in all that time, humans barely bred cats for anything. Not size, not temperament. Cats mostly bred themselves, living around grain stores, killing rodents because rodents were there. The result is an animal that looks nothing like a wolf turned into a golden retriever. A house cat today is, biologically, a wild cat with better manners. So the hunting drive was never trained out, because nobody was trying to train it out. It's still running, all the time, whether the food bowl is full or not. And it isn't triggered by hunger, actually. It's triggered by movement. A fluttering wing. A scurrying tail. Once that switch flips, the whole sequence runs almost like a reflex, hunger or no hunger. Which raises a stranger question than why does my cat hunt? The real question is, once the hunt is over, why bring the body to you? In 2019, a researcher named Kristen Vitale at Oregon State University ran an experiment on cats that had mostly been run on human infants before that. And dogs. It's called the secure base test. A cat and its owner sit together in an unfamiliar room. After a couple of minutes, the owner steps out, leaves the cat alone, then comes back. Here's what Vitale was actually measuring. Not whether the cat missed its owner, but how it acted at the reunion. A securely attached human infant relaxes when its caregiver returns, then goes back to exploring the room. An insecurely attached one either clings or ignores the parent completely. Vitale ran the same test on 79 kittens and 38 adult cats. The result, 65.8% showed secure attachment behavior. In human babies, that number sits around 65%. Cats treat their owners the same way infants treat a parent. A base of safety in a room that suddenly feels wrong. That's piece 1. Here's piece 2. In 2023, a team led by Emmanuel Baudry at Université Paris-Saclay surveyed over 2,500 cat owners across France. They cross-referenced personality traits against how often each cat brought prey home. Not every cat does this, it turns out. Cats rated outgoing and low anxiety by their owners brought home significantly more birds and small mammals than the shy, nervous ones did. Hunting and gift-bringing weren't random. They tracked almost exactly with which cats felt most secure, most bonded to the person standing in the kitchen. Put the two studies together and a pattern forms. The cat most likely to walk in with a dead mouse in its mouth is the cat that trusts you most. Not despite the bond, because of it. Which lines up with something people who study feral cat colonies have watched for decades. Mother cats bring back injured, half-alive prey for kittens too young to hunt alone. Not food, a lesson. A practice run, over and over, until the kitten can finish the job itself. Your own cat treating your kitchen like that same classroom changes how the doormat looks. Less like an accident, more like a curriculum. So far, this is a warm story. Attachment, trust, a strange little curriculum of love. But warm stories about cat predation have a habit of running into much colder numbers. In the United States alone, a widely cited estimate puts free-ranging domestic cats responsible for somewhere between 1.3 and 4 billion bird deaths a year. Add small mammals, and the number climbs past 20 billion. Not some invasive outlier species somewhere else. The same animal asleep on your couch right now. Here's where the story gets its sharpest edge. In 1894, a lighthouse keeper named David Lyall moved to Stevens Island, a speck of rock off the coast of New Zealand. He brought a cat. Her name, as far as anyone can tell, was Tibbles. Not long after, Tibbles started bringing Lyall dead birds. Small, ground-dwelling, nothing like anything he'd seen before. He was an amateur naturalist, and of course, He was fascinated. He sent specimens off to ornithologists in London. Within weeks, they realized they were looking at a species new to science, and that it was already vanishing. Within about a year, the Stevens Island wren was gone. Extinct. Wiped out largely by Tibbles and the small colony of cats she went on to produce, on an island that until 1894 had never had a single one. Historians now think the one cat, one extinction version oversimplifies things. More than one cat was almost certainly involved. But the core of it holds anyway. A bird that had never once needed to fear a land predator met one for the first time, in the body of an animal that thought it was doing something like a favor. So the exact same behavior that looks, up close, like devotion, looks, zoomed all the way out, like one of the more efficient extinction machines humans have ever accidentally shipped across an ocean. Stay with David Lyall for a second, because the part of his story that usually gets cut is the part that matters most here. Stevens Island in 1894 wasn't a research station. It was a lighthouse on a rock in the Cook Strait, staffed by a handful of people who saw almost no one else for months. Lyall's job was to keep a light burning so ships wouldn't die on the rocks below. That was the whole job. Days folded into each other. Mail came rarely, if at all. And in the middle of all that, he had one animal that met him at the door every single day. We don't know if Tibbles slept on his bed or sat at his feet while he trimmed the lighthouse wick at night. We do know she kept disappearing into the scrub and coming back with something. A bird here. A bird there. To a man starved for anything new to think about, this must have felt like being handed presents by the one companion he had. He wrote to scientists about the strange little bird his cat kept bringing him. He sounded excited in those letters. Genuinely moved, maybe, that his cat brought him things at all. He had no way of knowing what those things actually were. A species. The last of a species. Disappearing in real time, one gift at a time, delivered by an animal that loved him in the only vocabulary it had. That's the part that's hard to sit with. Tibbles wasn't cruel. She wasn't malicious, not even a little. By every measure we now have, the secure base test, the personality studies, decades of watching mother cats train their young, what she was doing for Lyall was about as close as a cat gets to a full declaration of trust. She brought him her kills because he was safe. Because he was hers. Because, somewhere in her, that's simply what you do for family. And a species that had survived on that island longer than humans, had existed anywhere on Earth, ended, quietly, in about a year. Not through malice. Through an act that, in almost any other context, we'd just call love. Devotion and extinction, coming out of the same small mouth, at the same time. So the next time you find something dead on your doormat, you're standing at the intersection of two things that are both, somehow, true. Your cat almost certainly loves you. Not in some soft projected human way, but in a measured, researched, secure base tested way. And your cat is doing, in that exact moment, the same thing a small population of feral cats did on a rock in the Cook Strait back in 1894. Not evil, not broken. Just a 10,000-year-old instinct, running through an animal too small to understand what it's carrying, delivered to the only creature it has ever decided to trust completely. Maybe that's what makes it strange. We spend so much energy asking whether animals feel anything real at all, whether a cat can actually love us, or if we're just reading feelings into fur and behavior because we want to. And then, once in a while, an animal answers that question so clearly it's almost uncomfortable. It hands you proof of its trust. It just happens to be dead. You're still allowed to be grossed out. Go ahead. But somewhere underneath that mouse on the mat, there's a small animal that looked at the entire world and picked you. Not a gift, a confession.